Broadcasting from Detroit's Cass Corridor, it's the Metro on WDET. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Robyn Vincent. Today on the show, the forces shaping Michigan's future.
We start in higher education, where international students are arriving in far smaller numbers. At U of M Dearborn, that decline is changing classrooms, research, and the talent pipeline the state relies on.
We'll also hear from Governor Gretchen Whitmer about election security and how the state is preparing for interference in a year where trust in democratic systems is already strained.
And in the second hour, we turn to culture and memory.
A new museum exhibit centers Latino history through black velvet paintings, reclaiming an art form long dismissed.
How change reshapes institutions, economies, and the stories we tell about ourselves. This is the Metro.
We begin on college campuses, where every fall they come alive with small rituals. New students finding their way. Roommates negotiating shared space. Classrooms filling with questions and ideas. But this year, on many Michigan campuses, something is missing. International students, once a steady presence, are arriving in far smaller numbers. At University of Michigan Dearborn, the change isn't just on enrollment lists. It's felt in classrooms, group projects, and everyday conversations that no longer happen. Behind the absence are visa delays and shifting federal rules, but also a broader signal. As the Trump administration advances a more nationalist, transactional approach to foreign policy, the U.S. is increasingly seen abroad as unpredictable. For students deciding where to study, that uncertainty matters. Joining me is Gabriella Scarlatta, interim chancellor of U of M Dearborn and a former international student herself. She says what's happening on campus reflects something larger about how welcome America feels right now and what Michigan risks losing because of it. Chancellor Scarlatta, thanks for joining me.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on your show.
Now, a lot of people go to university and don't necessarily interact with international students. So first, why do they matter to our college system?
Well, they matter for many, many reasons. I would say that a lot of us on campus, professors, staff, students themselves, of course, visitors, guests, interact with international students. They enrich our classrooms. They bring a wealth of cultural knowledge, cultural richness that we wouldn't be able to interact with, to experience, to benefit from if they were not on our campuses. So as you're saying, there's a lot of us that benefit from their presence in the United States, but in particular in our educational system.
And so this is a cause for concern because you're seeing a big decline in international students. How many students are attending University of Michigan Dearborn this year as opposed to last year?
Well, this fall in particular, fall 2025, we were down 44% in international students as compared to fall 2024. Let me go back a little bit. In early June, the Michigan Association of State Universities has a retreat for provosts, and right then, all of us were very concerned and realized that things were going to look different on our campuses this fall. So what we decided to do, and in particular in Dearborn, we reached out to our international students, those who had already applied and those who had already been accepted, whom we expected to see at the beginning of September, at the beginning of the semester. And they were responding to us saying that they didn't even have a visa appointment, and that was early June, July. So we kept in touch. We kept telling them, look, we're here. We want you in our classroom. You belong. What's going on? And we realized then by early July that they were not going to be able to be here because not only they didn't have a visa, they didn't have an appointment to get a visa. So we prepared, but definitely we felt the lack of the students on our campus, in our classrooms, in our cafeteria, everywhere in our events, and they're sorely missed. So 44%, and around the country, it's about 17% down.
17%.
Yes. Those were the latest data I have.
Do you have any idea of across Michigan what the percentages look like?
I think it's above 17%. When I talk to my counterparts, some bigger universities in Michigan were able to obviously accept more domestic students. So they're able to make up the numbers, the enrollments that way. At Dearborn, we're not. We're now coming up with strategies to reach out to our domestic market across the states. But right now, for this fall, winter we're down 2, and of course we forecast for fall 2. We're working on that, but across the state, it's been tough.
So this sounds like a big financial hit to the university then.
Well, it is. Yes, it is a financial hit. There are several hits, but it is a financial hit. International students pay full tuition, and thanks to that full tuition, we're able to provide scholarships to domestic students, right, and keep the cost low for some of our domestic students. That's across the board. But second, it's also a matter of our classes. Our classes are not as multicultural, are not as rich as they would be, because our students, in particular at Dearborn, have a hard time financially. They have to work. They have to tend to their families, going, for example, on study abroad trips. And I see these international students bringing the abroad to our classrooms, to our cafeteria, to our campus events. And so that's how we make our experience, our educational experience, a lot richer, a lot more multicultural, fun, diverse. And I think that is a real win for our students. That's something that we want to give our students.
So it is, in your eyes, not only a loss of affordability because international students are a source of financial stability, that tuition revenue helps support academic programs.
Absolutely.
But also you're seeing it as a huge cultural loss as well for your other students. And we're going to move past the numbers here in a moment, but I do just want to get a better sense of how many students that is when you say there's a 44% drop in international students.
So for us, between fall 25 and winter 26, today's census data, more or less we see it's about 200 students less. These are mostly graduate students. So they come here for a master's degree, mostly in STEM disciplines. So you understand the repercussions of STEM fields and the economy in Michigan as well, not having the students who would graduate. They graduate usually top of their class. They're very motivated to do well. And then usually they get an internship. They get, through the OPT, they get a training experience. So that's the number more or less. We know that that's not going to get better for fall 26.
And you're saying also then nationwide, so you're talking about a couple hundred students here, but nationwide we're talking about thousands. Of students, 17%, that's could be over 70,000 students. I want to talk about your story for a moment, Chancellor, because it relates very much to this conversation. You came from Italy to Michigan to pursue your doctorate. When you first arrived as a student, what convinced you that this was a place where you could build a life, not just earn a degree?
Well, first of all, I came for love. So I was here and I met my husband's family, and obviously going to Wayne State, I found a very welcome community. I mean, my department in particular, Romance Languages, was people from all over the world, people I could relate. My professors were fantastic, top researchers in their field. But I found a community that was very welcoming, very friendly, and very multicultural. I learned a lot from my colleagues from the various parts of the world, whether it was Spain, South America, the Middle East, right? And so I grew that way. And this was more than 30 years ago, and I made a life here because I think this is a wonderful country. University in particular are wonderful communities that are welcoming to every people from every walk, every country. And so I was very fortunate to be in a university, an urban university like Wayne State, in a wonderful department. But that's what told me I belong here. And I had that feeling right away. I missed
the
Italy.
Diversity is what told you belonged
The
here.
diversity told me I belong here. And the diversity for me, right, an Italian meant Americans, right? People from Michigan, people from New York or Chicago. That to me was diversity, which is the same as for these international students. I think that we don't talk enough, or we take it for granted, the journey of an international student, what they leave behind, a family, security, the food they know, the people they know. Yes, it's an adventure, don't get me wrong, and within a month you're able to say, yeah, this is perfect, I like it here. But it's a big risk that they're taking. And for the parents of these young men and women, it's a big risk that they're taking too in sending their children to study in the United States. And by the way, rightly so, we have one of, I think, the best educational systems, more flexible. You're able to build your curriculum. You're able to learn from the top-notch researchers. I mean, that's why we have a lot of researchers from all over the world. The United States has resources, has the infrastructure, and has the ability to welcome people.
I do want to think about the student experience and what challenges they're facing. But before we zoom in on that, I want to quickly zoom back out to what a decline in international students means for all of us. Because research tells us international students contribute to job creation and economic activity broadly. How do you think a sustained drop in enrollment changes the way Michigan businesses and industries view the state's talent landscape?
Well, Robyn, I'm not an economist, but it does not look good. Let me just give you some numbers. More than 700 Dearborn international graduates are currently working in Michigan and across the U.S. through their OPT, the optional practical training. The federal government has indicated that, is looking at this program, which also is going to really put in the international students population at risk. While there is a misconception among many people that these graduates are taking jobs that would otherwise be filled by domestic students, the fact is that Michigan in particular has more open STEM positions than our university's STEM graduates can fill. And in 2022, which is the latest data we have, more than 9,000 international graduates were working in Michigan in these STEM jobs. Now, let's think about it. Our industry is an auto industry. There are suppliers and everything that works around it. Detroit is becoming a real hub. Active, energetic. We need graduates to work in these jobs, and and I'm not an economist, but in 2 years, when we don't have that number of graduate students graduating, what is going to happen? Do we have a plan for that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it does not seem that we have a plan for that. Why do you think there is such a large opening in terms of these jobs that Americans are not going toward those jobs?
So in Michigan in particular, our population is shrinking. Our number of graduates coming out of high schools from Michigan schools are shrinking. If you think about how many high schools, middle schools and high schools have closed down and merged with others, is the number is pretty high. And so we're talking about population. The domestic students are just not there. Now, as I said, we're working towards more strategies, for example, putting more of our programs online, including undergrad and grad, to attract more domestic students. They might want to come to Michigan to work. But right now, we're having an issue with visas, and we're not granting visas, not just to international students, but also to young people who would want to work in Michigan.
It's The Metro on WDET. I'm Robyn Vincent. My guest is Gabriella Scarlatta, interim chancellor of U of M Dearborn. We're discussing a huge drop in international students at college campuses in Michigan and beyond, and what that means for everyone. Chancellor, some analysts describe the decline as more than a short-term dip. They say it's a signal about the U.S.'s openness to global engagement. What do you think this trend says about how the U.S. is perceived on the world stage now? And how would you like to see that perception shift?
Well, I mean, you have been reporting about the Davos meeting today and about what politically is going on. I'm not able, I can't comment on that. I'm not fluent in that, but I can tell you as far as higher ed, right now it's a crisis, but it can be overturned in a matter of a year. Let's change our message. Let's be more welcoming to this young men and women that come from all over the countries. Right now, we already know they're turning to Germany, they're turning to Canada, they're turning to China because they are getting the ability to go and study there and do research there. But that's something that we can overturn with our messaging, with our rhetoric. Let's be more welcoming. Let's try to understand them just like we want them to understand us. That's the other thing that happens is that when they're here, they're able to know us, just like what happened to me, like I said many years ago, that I got to know how diverse American society is.
I'm wondering when you talk about losing these students to other places,
Yes.
to Canada, to countries in Europe, to the UK, the United States could lose ground competitively in attracting global talent. I mean, how real is that concern from your vantage point at this moment?
It's very concerning because, as I said, the lack of these students is a lack for our own domestic students in our classrooms. Before they were able to interact with students, peers from all over the world. What are they wearing? What music they're listening to? What are they thinking? Contribute, do work projects, be incredibly creative. Robyn, when we go out there in the workforce, in particular in Michigan, right? We're in a global economy. When you go there, your team is not going to be all domestic team members. Your boss probably does not look just like you, does not sound like you. We have in all industries across the states, and in particular in Michigan, if you think about Stellantis, it was Fiat, now it's French, it's German, right? Back and forth. All of these cultures are come together to work together. And we know that those are the best products when we are able to bring diversity to the table and come up with solution, real life solution that benefit our society and all of us. So that is going to be difficult. And again, we can turn that around. Let's turn that around. It's going to take, obviously, higher ed leaders. I know we're doing a good job advocating for this very important issue. It's going to take our politicians to advocate from both sides. This is important. This is what we're going to miss out in 2 years, in 3 years.
Are you seeing any interest from any lawmakers about this issue? I mean, we're talking about something that has the potential to hit universities, but there's not only to hit universities, to hit economies more broadly, but we also know that there is a culture war being waged against universities, and it's along partisan lines. And so that just has me wondering if there are a lot of lawmakers not even wanting to wade into this debate right now.
I think there are. I think that there are from both sides. I think that there are. I think that they understand. I think they see. And I think that the more they know, the more it's our job to educate them. But I think that if we could sit down with them and we would be able to explain just what I'm saying to you and to your listener, I think that they would. I think that they would pause and say, oh, okay, yes, we need to educate each other. And I don't know too much the concerns that there is right now about this visa, but I'm happy to learn about it. But I'm also happy to educate from our standpoint the huge loss, cultural, and of course, financial. As the chancellor, as the interim chancellor, I'm concerned about our finances, of course, our budget. And by the way, it's going to affect what we're able to offer to our domestic students.
I do want to think about the student experience, if we could. Mm-hmm. Many international students who already arrived have faced sudden visa reversals or changes in their status with little explanation. It's not only the ones who are vying to get to the U.S. It's folks who are already here as well. Can you describe how this uncertainty plays out in real time for students and their families on campus and far from it?
Yeah, so we realized in early fall that some of our students in the SEVIS platform, SEVIS, I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, but our students were losing their visas all of a sudden from day to day. We didn't get a notification. It was just because we have a fantastic team in our international office that check. And we realized 6 of our students did. We didn't know why. We looked into it. Those visas were taken away, but through advocacy, we were able to reinstate them. So, however, in the meantime, one student left because she was very concerned about the situation being illegal in this country. So we lost a student. You might think it's not much, but for us it was a lot. So that was reversed. But we saw that across the United States, where universities were checking the status of their students, and all of a sudden visas were disappearing. Visas were revoked. Little by little, through advocacy, we were able to, for the most part, reinstate them. So that was very concerning. It hasn't happened yet. So the students that are here are getting a lot of mentorship, are getting a lot of support. They know very well that they can go to the international office. We've been talking to them. We've been making sure that they feel supported. Sometimes we communicate with their families. So they're feeling okay. There were some times where we told our students not to leave. They might have wanted to go.
Don't leave the U.S.
Don't leave the U.S.
You might not be able to get back in.
Exactly. No, we just wanted to be cautious. But this past summer 25, we said, if you can help it, just don't leave. I know you want to go back and see your family. You're not taking classes this summer, but just stay. And we were able to employ some, give them jobs at our university, enroll them in some classes, get them engaged. But that was the fear.
Presumably, a lot of international students, when they come to the U.S., there is the hope then that they can stay and plant roots and get jobs.
Yes.
Are you hearing those hopes dashed?
Yes. Yes, I'm hearing that because we have some international students that are here that are no longer able, despite the fact that they're on OPT, they're no longer able to get jobs, to get training, to get internships, right, that are secure them a stay. Through the OPT, they can be here up to 3 years. Those have greatly diminished, number one. They themselves are talking to their friends in their countries and say, you better not come because this is what is going on and don't come. And I heard from one of our students that there were 2 of his friends that were going to come. They were admitted, but they decided not to come and to go to Germany precisely because of what we've been discussing.
Chancellor Scarlatta,
yes,
you've spent much of your career teaching students to see the world as larger and more connected than their own experience. I'm wondering, in the last minute we have here, what's hardest for you to watch when those connections start to thin on campus?
Very hard. I teach French and Italian culture and literature. We have a global mission. It's posted on our website, a global education mission. I think I want to educate citizens of the world, students who are able to see difference but appreciate it right away, to be curious of the other and not be judgmental, afraid, right? Fear is, to me, the first word that comes to mind. So it is very hard. It breaks my heart. I'm really going to advocate hard. Thank you so much for having me on your program today. This is very important. I'm so happy that you gave me the opportunity to amplify my message. And my fear is that our young students are going to miss out big time compared to other countries in the world. They're missing out in this international wealth that we all bring to each other.
Gabriella Scarlatta, Interim Chancellor of University of Michigan, Dearborn. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Robyn.
It's It's the Metro on WDET. Coming up next, Governor Gretchen Whitmer says the state of Michigan is preparing for election interference in the fall. She told NPR's Steve Inskeep why she's worried and how the state is preparing. That's next on the Metro. Stay with us.